Gosh, Nikki, I almost called you by the wrong last name because I know another Nikki. Nikki Bryant, who is also program secretary with Teacher Effectiveness, and then Sylvia Padilla, who's an admin assistant for Teacher Effectiveness. So as you can see, we have quite a few people here just from this team. And the reason for that is because we want to make sure that we get all your questions answered. So the more folks who are here from our team, the more quickly we can and efficiently we can answer your questions. So again, my name is Shive Jones, and I'm the Director of Teacher Effectiveness and Preparation, and I will be one of your presenters today. And I've been here with the county office for 12 years, and prior to that, I was a high school English and math teacher. And also presenting today is...
Hi, sorry, typing in the chat there. Hi, my name is Adina Sullivan Marlowe, and I'm a coordinator here in Teacher Effectiveness and Preparation.
You're muted, Shive.
Oh my gosh, I was talking for quite a while there. Thank you. And this is why the team is here, to help me help myself. And you know, the other thing is we need to record this. I'm going to record.
We're recording.
We are? Okay. Okay, good. So SDCOE has multiple functions here in San Diego County. One of them is we have our own schools, as well as we support other schools, 42 school districts across San Diego County. We also have altogether with those 42 school districts approximately 780 schools that we serve in some way, shape, or form, 500,000 students, over 120 charter schools across the county, and then we also collaborate with 5 community college districts in San Diego County. So the juvenile court and community schools include schools for incarcerated youth, schools for homeless youth, as well as a school for severely disabled students. So we, aside from having our own schools, we also provide support to school districts and charters across the county. Now, teacher preparation, teacher effectiveness and preparation, which is our team and our group, we're housed in human resources, as I mentioned earlier, and we provide things like educator test preparation, credentialing programs for folks who are already teachers or who want to become teachers. We also work with districts not only in San Diego County, but actually around the state on educator evaluation system support. And then additionally, we do a lot with educator recruitment. And one of the things that I want to clarify is educators can be teachers, but they can be non-teachers as well. So all of us in the education community, when I'm referring to educators today, you're going to see that I'm talking about teachers, but also people who work in the system. So our objective is to make sure that when you walk away today, you understand the options that you have working for what we would call local education agency outside of teaching positions. And at the same time that you become familiar with some job search tools that support even non-teaching positions. And the information that we share with you today, even though we're San Diego County Office of Education and examples that we share will probably be from within San Diego County. We're really sharing with you general information that's applicable for districts across the state, not just San Diego County. So in the previous slide, I mentioned local educational agencies. So what is a local educational agency? It can be a county office like we are. So most counties have a county office. There's the San Diego County Office of Education, Imperial County, Orange County, LA County, and as you go further north, you could just name the counties and they most likely have a county office of education. So those are part of the local education agencies. We also out there, you have unified school districts. So unified district houses pre-K all the way through 12th grade. But you also have high school districts that typically go from 7th grade to 12th grade. And then you have elementary school districts that are pre-K through 6th grade. So for example, I taught in Escondido Union High School District, and our high school district was actually 9th grade through 12th grade. And Escondido Elementary District then covered all the rest from pre-K through 8th. But then you have a San Diego High School District that goes grades 7 through 12, and then the elementary districts surrounding San Diego have pre-K through 6. Okay. And then you have your comprehensive districts, the K through 12, like Vista or Oceanside, unified, where they go pre-K through 12. We also, part of local education agencies are charter schools, and something to understand about charter schools is that they are still public schools, and charter schools have their charter through a school district or through a county office of education. So they are still a public school. And then you have private schools. Okay? And private schools are completely independent of school districts. And Adina.
So it can be helpful to understand kind of the structure of the way that public schools work. It can be a little different than the business sector. So starting off, there is a Board of Education for each school district, and the Board of Education hires a school superintendent. That school superintendent then oversees various divisions within a school district, and those would include educational services, business services, and human resources. And we'll talk a bit about what's in each of those in just a bit. And then within each division, those are run by an assistant superintendent who reports directly to the superintendent. And under each assistant superintendent, there are a number of directors for each part of that division. And then under each director, there may be some coordinators or managers, and those fall into two categories along with additional staff, and those would be certificated staff, which are credentialed. So this is these positions require a teaching credential, and then there are classified staff which do not require a teaching credential. They may have other qualifications but don't require a teaching credential. So within certificated, we've got various categories of jobs. We have teachers, counselors, psychologists. In some schools, charter schools and private schools, it may be a dean. There are assistant principals sometimes, along with a principal. And then we have the classified positions, and those are a wide variety of positions that may be various types of clerical positions, maintenance in various ways in landscaping, food service, child nutrition services, technology technicians, accountants and bookkeepers, health clerks, school nurses, and a variety of other positions that all will be under the classified category.
So we share this information with you so that you'll know the structure, and you can also see that it really does take a village to support a child and ensure their education and their safety and everything else that goes along with bringing a child along through the system. So Adina mentioned earlier that there are three groups that usually fall under a superintendent. You have the first one being educational services, and then you have business services and human resources. So educational services includes things like instructional technology, curriculum and instruction, professional development for certificated staff, for your teachers, for your credentialed people. There's student services, um, which usually houses the special education program, assessment and continuous improvement. And then typically two school principals are the instructional leaders on their campus. So they fall under educational services because that's where all the instructional pieces lie. Okay. Now, to support education services, you still have to have classified staff. You still have to have support staff, which would be admin assistants, program secretaries. There may be someone who's a data person and they just focus on the assessment data. So you do have non-credentialed, non-teaching positions housed within educational services. Now there's also business services. Business services, this is where you really have the business people. And I would say this is where you would typically see a majority of non-teaching staff. In business services, it houses informational technology. So think about all the support around technology, not only at the district, but at every single school site. Okay, all schools have computers. In many cases, students are issued um, laptops or some type of a device, and there's technology, informational technology, and that team would support all of that, that entire infrastructure and everything else. You also have finance. So there's a whole sector of running a school district that has to do with school finance, which includes budgeting. Um, Actually, recently someone said to me, and it makes perfect sense, that business services and human resources are really the heart of any local education agency, because even though human resources is doing the hiring, they have to know that it's within the budget to do the hiring, and they don't just do that on their own. They have to work with business services. So finance is not only just budget, but it includes things like payroll, purchasing, invoices. There's a lot that goes around the finance. Also, business services houses maintenance and operations. So you think about the custodial staff at a school. You think about special projects and things that have to do with facilities at a school or even at a school district. That's going to come out of maintenance and operations. And if there are vehicles, whether they're buses or whether it's a fleet of cars, that would come out of maintenance and operations. Purchasing, which I mentioned, and then risk and safety. So all the risk management usually comes out of business services. So you could see in this case in business services, not teaching jobs, you don't have to have a credential. It really is just a background possibly in technology, in um, maintenance, in finance. Okay. Adina, have I missed anything so far? And thank you for adding some things into the chat.
Yeah, I just threw a couple just clarifying items in there. I think you've hit the big points there.
And then there is human resources. Human resources is in charge of employment, benefits, bargaining. So with bargaining, you know, teachers have a union and then classified employees have a union as well. So human resources is involved in the bargaining for both groups. And then the most fun job in human resources, I say sarcastically, they're also in charge of discipline and investigations. And this is another department where you're going to see both certificated and classified employees. So you're going to see non-teaching positions here as well. So even at our own county office, we have a recruiter. We have a couple of recruiters actually, and they do not have a teaching credential, but their specialty really is human resources. And so they understand the ins and outs of recruitment, of job descriptions, on the legalities behind posting a job and what needs to be in there. We also in human resources, you'll typically see credential technicians like our very own Calypso, who's with us today, um, who are not teachers, but they work with teachers in making sure that they have the proper credentials to be in a position that they're in. So that is human resources. So just trying to break it down here so you can see where there are possibilities. Depending on the size of the district, these departments can be very large or they can be very small. And in some cases, the human resources person may also be the educational services person, and that would be in your very tiny school districts. So some of the things that the positions I've already talked about, I just want to highlight here so you can think about what your background and experiences are, and then we'll talk too about how you can find these types of positions, and we'll walk through it a little bit. Actually, I'm going to stop for one moment and just invite you to ask any questions that you may have so far based on what we've shared. You can type in the chat if you have any questions. I would even love to know what backgrounds you might have that you see fitting into one of these departments. So are you a finance person? Do you have a background in technology? Who do we have in the room? Nessa, how do we apply for these positions? I will definitely tell you. You must have seen my subsequent slides. Okay, computer engineering. And one of the things that we don't talk about in today's presentation is that there are different pathways to teaching as well, and that's a whole other pre-recorded presentation that you can find at workforce.org actually. But if you have been an industry professional for a while and you think you might be interested in teaching, you don't have to have a bachelor's degree, but you have to have industry experience. That's a whole other presentation that I invite you to check out. Okay, so let's see what we have here. technology, computer engineer, that's great. IT for higher ed. Is there an entrance exam for non-teaching positions? The exam, Mary, would be typically an interview. They call those exams, but depending on the position, there may also be an exam. So for example, if you were going into a support position like a program secretary or an administrative assistant, there would be an exam that you would take for that, just to give a general sense of what your knowledge is of the position.
Technology positions often also include an exam of some kind. There may be a couple of different ways that that's done, but that would be part of the interview process.
And Victor's question about being an experienced technician in a trade school college, there is career technical education, and Rachel actually put a link in the chat, workforce.org/on-demand. We have a presentation that's recorded in there called Pathways to Teaching, and you can learn about the pathway to how to become a teacher from having been in industry. Okay. But how to transition from teaching early childhood to non-teaching job, Allegra, that actually is not that difficult to do, in the sense of you already speak the language and probably understand how a system works. And so in an interview, you can speak to that, and that would be to your advantage there. Networks, construction, maintenance, fantastic. I'm just reading what we have here. Okay. Okay, so we have a lot of different backgrounds in here, and I can tell you there's a position for all of those backgrounds in a school district or a charter school. So that is really good. Now, before we get into how do you apply for these jobs and how do you find these jobs, I want to take a minute to just share with you some of the benefits of working in a school district or a county office, either one. And they include the fact that you get health benefits. So there's still a monthly cost typically, but it's very controlled, which is good. So you get a health insurance plan with an option of having it just for you or for your entire family. There's permanent status. So for classified employees, it's 6 months. So after 6 months, you can get permanent status. And what that means is that you're not going to lose your job just like that, right? There's a whole process, like if there were ever layoffs, there's a whole process where you would be on a seniority list. So it's quite protected. There's a retirement system. So non-teaching positions pay into the public employee retirement system, PERS, also known as PERS. And the benefits of PERS are phenomenal, but you don't pay into Social Security. So depending on how many years that you put in to an education job, whether it's PERS or what the teachers pay into. With so many years of teaching, there's the formula, right? I'm sorry, not teaching, but with so many years in, along with your age, there's a formula where you get a percentage of your highest salary. So, and I can tell you it's usually more than Social Security. There's union membership. So as I mentioned earlier about human resources does the bargaining with both classified and with certificated. So classified being non-teaching folks, they're part of a union. So health benefits are negotiated, paid time off is negotiated. Um, all those things are negotiated. In some cases, there could be where the more education you have, the more your salary would go up. That's all negotiated by your union. Okay. And there's a set schedule. So what you would have here is typically a 7 to 4, 7 to 3 kind of schedule, or 8 to 5, as opposed to the schedule changing every week or every couple weeks. Your schedule is pretty predictable, and you'll know what days and times you'd be going in, and that would be consistent. And probably the most important is there's paid time off. So you get vacation time and you get sick days. Um, so I'm not actually really sure, and maybe Nikki or Sylvia may be able to answer this, or Calypso, how many days off a year classified staff get at the county office for sick days or for vacation. You could type it in the chat if you know. They never take time off, so they may not know. um, I know for us, for instance, for teaching staff or certificated staff, we get 10 sick days a year. Okay. And then we get so many vacation days, so it may be, I don't know, well, our schedule is a little different, but it may be something like 15 or 20 vacation days. You have some districts that completely close up in July. So there's 1 month where nobody even goes into the office. And then the vacation, usually there's so many days around the week of winter or the week around Christmas where it's winter break and people get time off for that. And then, of course, all the holidays, other holidays. Okay. So there's some real perks to working in education, even if it's a non-teaching position. So let's talk about how do you find these jobs. And we also have a presentation that focuses solely on EdJoin, but I still want to take some time to just show you how you would find non-teaching positions through a website called edjoin.org. And at least this might pique your interest a little bit, and you could do a little searching, which I know will make you want to come to our subsequent presentations on tech jobs and business services jobs. So I am going to open a new window here. Adina, do you see my EdJoin window? Okay, good. Just want to make sure. So this is edjoin.org. This is the job board for education jobs. Almost every district in San Diego County, with the exception of San Diego Unified, and also charter schools, and even some private schools post in EdJoin. So there are a couple ways that you could do a search. You can either come in here and type in a job title or even a city, and you can see what's available. Remember, this includes the entire state, so it might be overwhelming and you might want to narrow things down. So what I like to do when I come into EdJoin, not that I've been there, team, much, I'm not looking for other jobs, but when I come into EdJoin, I like to do a region search. A lot of times I go into EdJoin just to see what openings districts have because people call our office and they want to learn more about applying for jobs. So I'm going to narrow it down to California, and then I can pick a region. So I'm going to pick San Diego County. There are 972 jobs in San Diego County. And let's pick a district. I am going to go with Jill's last district. Let's look at Chula Vista Elementary District. So I click on Chula Vista, and you can see that these are the positions that are open. And actually, in this case, these are certificated. I know that because these different positions require credentials, but I'm going to check page 2. Okay. So there's one here for bus driver substitute employee pool, and I can click on it. And this tells you what the requirements and qualifications are. It gives you a summary of the job. And then there's additional information here. So how do I apply for this job? You actually would want to watch the video on EdJoin because what you need to do is actually set up a profile for yourself. It's like a single job application for multiple um, districts. You use the same application, which is really, really nice. And then there may be some things that you need to include. Well, not maybe. You would want to include things like your resume and a letter of introduction and letters of recommendations. But if you wanted to learn more about this district that you couldn't find here for some reason, you can contact the contact person, or every district has a website. So you could click here and I believe it'll take you, oh, it takes you to all their postings. So that's not how I would want to do it. I would actually just type in, um, do a new search for Chula Vista Elementary District, and I can just start checking out their website. So in this case, there was only one. So I think what I'm going to do is come over here where it says select a different organization. And I'm just going to pick a different organization. Let's go with,
Shiva, do you want
Poway.
to show them how to do an advanced search so they can narrow it down to maybe the type of position they'd like?
Great idea. So I'm going to come back here to job search and do an advanced search. And you see this says teaching position, so I'm going to skip that and I'm going to go to other positions. And what I will do, Adina, thank you. I got so focused on that one thing. I'm going to select some jobs next to classified because again, classified means I don't have to have a teaching credential. Now on my computer, to select multiple items here, I have to click Command and push my mouse at the same time. So let's do food service, information, technology, and other classified. And one thing that I didn't highlight is if you're interested in working directly with students, but you don't have a teaching credential, maybe one day you want to get a teaching credential or maybe you don't. There's also a position called instructional assistant or teacher's aide where you'd be working in the classroom with students and with the teacher, but you don't need to have a credential for that. Okay, so I selected a few items here and I'm going to narrow it down to California, and I'm going to search in San Diego County. And there are 100 80 job postings. Your search returned 180 job postings. Okay, so here we go. There's nutritional services assistant, and here it gives you a little information about the salary, or you can click here and learn more. I'm going to go back to my search results page and just kind of scroll down. So this tells me the different districts, what positions they're hiring, and then some salary information. So a support assistant, non-credit, adult education. This one came up. Remember I said we also work with community college districts in San Diego County, and here's a Miracosta Community College position. Now you will notice that there's a whole slew of positions, things from receptionist all the way to a child care assistant, to food service worker, to landscaping, to budget, to telephone operator. So there are quite a few positions out there. A budget analyst, this gives me the hourly. Now, what you will find though with San Diego Unified is when you click here to learn more, it's going to tell you to click here to apply offsite. So remember, San Diego Unified is one of those districts where you, instead of using your EdJoin profile to apply, you would go offsite, off the website, to their website to apply. Okay. Adina, what did I miss?
I think you got it. I think definitely that advanced search feature is really, really powerful because you can narrow it down to exactly the kind of position you'd like, as well as the regions you'd like to look at. Or if you really are interested in looking closer to home, you could look for specific districts. But this gives you some variety of ways to look. One thing to look at is, Shiva, you were talking about like the hourly, and you'll notice some of the positions will give an hourly, some will give a monthly, some will give an annual, some will say depending on experience. So you kind of have to take some time to look through the way they list their different salary information. And then within the position itself, it'll tell you whether the position is a certain number of months of the year or a certain number of days. So it'll get you a lot more detail once you look at the position itself. I would also recommend, Shiva mentioned that there's one, you'll complete a profile that you can then use to apply to multiple positions. But one tip that's been shared with me is to make sure that your letters of introduction are specific to that position. So you'll want to, you don't want it to look, you just created a form letter and sent it out. You want it to look like you've actually paid attention to what that district is or what that school is, and that position, and really personalize it for that particular position to show that you are really interested in them and not just blasting an application out to everyone.
Really good point, because that can be the difference between getting a job interview or not getting a job interview, is having that cover letter, the letter of introduction, being specific to the position that you apply for. Now, I just wanted to point out the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning technician. So that seems so random. I think for people who don't know all the ins and outs of a school district, that might be a little surprising. But I mean, it really is a village, as I said earlier. And it takes many different positions to make things happen. So here's a perfect example. And actually, HVAC is kind of a big deal right now with COVID and making sure that filtration is done well. Now, the last thing I want to show you about, actually two things I want to show you is another way that you could find out a little more about salaries and what that looks like and where you would start is um, since Escondido Union School District is here in front of us, I'm just going to go ahead and do a search where I look up Escondido Union School District. And I'm going to pull up their website, and you can actually go to their human resources page. And in education, it's either called human resources or personnel services. You can actually look for what's called a salary schedule to see what their pay is like. So when we come down here, where is it going to be? Department. I probably should have tried this out before I just took you guys here, but let me do a search for human resources and see if this takes me. Okay, human resources. So you'll notice in human resources, you can learn a lot about what the district offers to its employees. So here they have board policies, they have the school calendar, so you can see what their holiday schedule is like. The benefits tells you about all the different benefits that they offer. And then you're going to come down to classified personnel, and you can look up salary schedule, and you can also look up job description. So you can pick any district and just pull up job descriptions and go to classified, for instance, and you can see all the different positions that are available, or not, I'm sorry, not available. They may not be open positions, but all the positions that it takes to run a local educational agency. So these are all non-teaching positions in an elementary school district. It's a very, very long list, and it keeps going. So if it would be worth, if you had some time, to go on a district website and see what are all the different positions that any district would have, and then you can use that to do a search on EdJoin, or you could just go straight to EdJoin and do the advanced search, which works out great. But I want to look up salary schedule. Let me see if I can make my screen a little bigger here. So the salary schedule, there are different categories of classified employees. I say categories of pay. So I'm just going to do the regular. And it downloaded a document on my computer. So I'm going to pull that up. And this is a little more complicated than I thought. So this talks about the placement on a salary range, but not necessarily the salary. So you would have to do some hunting around to find out what do these different salary ranges mean. But if I was going to do, say I was going to be an HVAC technician right here, it starts at salary range 43. So now I'm going to have to go back to the website and see if I could find the salary range so I can see what 43 is. But you can get additional pay based on longevity. So the longer you're in a district, your pay can go up annually, bump up just a little bit. Your pay can also go up with education. So the number of units that you have. So no matter where you start, it would be worth inquiring about or investigating um, where you would end up. Because typically the starting salary is not the ending salary when you retire, if that makes sense. Okay.
Taking a look at some of these pay scales can also give you an idea, even if you don't see the exact dollar amount, it can give you an idea of the types of positions they have within that scale, so you can see, is there room for growth? If I come in at this position, what other positions might I be able to grow into down the line?
Really important. And look what I found. So I think I said 40, what was it? It was placement on the salary schedule is 43. So when I come here and I look up 43, I can see that HVAC technician starts at 49,000, but it goes up to 62,000. And these steps are dependent on typically on your experience and the amount of time that you have had in a position.
So depending on your experience, if they said that you needed 2 years of experience, you may come in at step 2 on that scale, versus step 1. So maybe in the posting it has a step 1 salary range listed, but you might be able to qualify a little further up on the scale, just depending on the district. And those salaries are all negotiated by the union and approved by the school board.
And it can also be negotiable upon hire. So it's really important if you're offered a position and they ask you, well, tell us about your experience, that you really do share how much experience you've had in doing that work, because that can determine where you end up on the salary scale. So, do we have any other questions or comments? Now, today was really just about giving you the overview of the structure. It is by no means the meat of the different kinds of positions that are in business services or in um, what is it, the technology positions that there are. So we do have future presentations coming up. So on August 19th, we're going to be our assistant superintendent of, is it instructional technology? Is that his title?
Let's go with that.
Okay. He's one of our assistant superintendents, and he actually came from a school district where he was in charge of the technology across his school district. So he is going to be doing a presentation on technology careers and co-facilitating with someone who leads that within a district. So if you're interested in that webinar, that'll be on August 19th, and it'll also be recorded. And then we have our assistant superintendent of business services, who will be doing a presentation where he's going to share all about the different jobs that are in a business services office. And he just recently came from a school district as well. So he's very close to that work, and he works with business offices just as our technology person works with technology offices across all the districts in San Diego County. So we really hope that you will be able to attend these between now and the time of the upcoming webinars. I would invite you to go to any school website, district website, go to their human resources, and just look at the different positions that are there. And you can even read some of the job descriptions just to give you a sense of the work. And then that way, when you come to the presentation, you may have some very specific questions for the presenters.
One more click, Shive.
Mhm. Thank you. So we have previous webinar recordings that I had referenced earlier. Um, we have one on building your EdJoin profile and doing a search on EdJoin. And then there's also pathways to teaching. So you can find this either on YouTube under teacher effectiveness and preparation, or you can also find it in workforce.org /. Oh, I may need help with that. It was up earlier.
On demand.
On demand. Thank you. Workforce.org / on demand. There we go. So we will stick around. If anyone has questions, we hope to see you back either August 19th or 25th or on both dates. And just thank you for the great questions. Thank you for being here today, and have a wonderful rest of your week. And like I said, we will stick around if anyone has questions.